Hi, and welcome to episode 11 of Knitting Blooms. Today is July 10th, 2011, and I am Tina, your host. And I'd like to first start off by welcoming everybody who has continued to come back each week and watch. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate you watching, and I'm glad you enjoyed the show enough to continue to come back. One thing I want to mention is that because of all the viewers, I just want to kind of give you an idea of what's going on iTunes for me. I have been in the new and notable section of the games and hobbies category on iTunes for a number of weeks now. I didn't really, when I first got on iTunes, I never really checked it, but every once in a while I'll go in there, and I've been in the top 3 every single time I've checked it for the last couple of weeks. So I have everyone to thank for that, because I think that comes from the reviews and the downloads and whatnot. Also, when I just checked just before the show, I was coming up in the top 10 video podcasts for the games and hobby category. And in addition to that, I was in the top 50 of the games and hobbies, all the podcasts, audio and video. And at one moment last week, when I happened to check, I was in the top 200 video podcasts for all of the video podcasts on iTunes. So I can only thank you guys for that, because you guys are watching, and that is bringing up the ratings. So let's keep all the knitting podcasts up there in the top ranks for the categories. That's just awesome. Also, we are almost at 200 members in the Ravelry group, so thank you for joining, and I hope you're getting something out of being a member of that group as well. If you have questions, please take the time and post your questions to the group, and I try and check that group a couple times a day, so I can see if there's anybody out there that's having questions on anything. So that's all for that so far today. Let me get started with, I was looking to make sure I had everything for a second there. I almost thought I forgot. We'll get started with first, before I do that, you might notice some new lighting. I decided this week that I was going to invest in some studio lights, and I'm hoping that this lighting is really good. I will see how it goes when I edit the tape, and let me know what you think. So we'll start with finished objects this week, and I finished the featherweight cardigan. And it's hard to really see because it's so big. I have a picture of it when it was blocking that I'll show you. But after the soak, this yarn came out beautifully. When I did my swatches, I didn't soak them for a long period of time. I just wet them and tried to make sure that the fiber of the yarn was completely wet. But when I did this, I let it soak for a good 20 to 30 minutes, and afterwards it came out very nice. The stitches are nice and even now, whereas when I was working with the yarn, they were kind of looking a little wonky, but it came out beautifully and it blocked out real nice, and I'm really happy with the final product. You know, sometimes you get the yarns and you're not really sure how it's going to turn out, but it is really important to take the time to block your swatch and what have you, to see how it's going to turn out. Because had I just done the swatch, well, this was a knitting for hire, but if I was doing this project for myself, if I had done the swatch with the yarn and the needles and whatnot, I probably would have just said, nope, I'm not doing this yarn for this project. But in the end, it came out really nice. So I'm glad that it was a knitting for hire for me to actually have to go through and do the whole thing and see how it comes out. But the stitches are just absolutely gorgeous. And the yarn, the variation in the yarn is wonderful as well. So that project is complete. and that will be going in the mail this week. So that's one thing off the to-do list. With last week, I think I mentioned that I started 4 projects last weekend, and my primary work this week was on the 2 knitting for hires, the featherweight cardigan, which I finished, and that one's done, and then my secret knitting for hire that I can't show you. That was my second project that I worked on primarily this week. So I don't have a lot to show you. As I mentioned last week, the sock yarn blanket, the modified Lady Eleanor, the baby surprise jacket, and my master knitters is all on hold. Probably until the end of July, or at least until I finish the other secretive knitting for hire that has to get done by the 24th of July. So those, you know, I need to get those other things done, and I'll work on the other projects as well, but my primary goal is to get the knitting for hire done because there is a definite deadline date for that. So that's been my primary project this week. The other projects that I have worked on, in addition, because you know sometimes you work on a project and you get bored with it, you know, so I have worked on other projects this week, and the first one I'll talk about is the Iris Mystery Shawl. If you're doing this project and you don't want to see my progress so far, then just look away. You can listen if you want, but just look away so you don't see the progress. I am in the middle of the row. The second clue came out on Friday, and I downloaded it and printed it out. I did get a chance to work on it a little bit on Friday and a little bit yesterday, but I didn't get a chance to finish the clue. I don't know how many rows this clue is because it's kind of like a repeat of 4 rows, and you just keep doing it until you get down to the center. But I'm not quite there. I have quite a ways to go on it. But as long as, I think the next clue, clue 3, comes out on next Friday. So as long as I have a chance to get through this clue before next Friday, I'll be happy. So this is my progress. I really like these mysteries. They're just so fun. And I can see why people don't want to be, you know, spoiled by seeing the project. This is just, it's coming out really cool. I like the way that it started. I like the oh, somebody just texted me. I like the detail at the top, and I like this stitch pattern in the body of the shawl right now, and the fact that it's doing so nicely with this yarn as well. I am really enjoying this project, let me tell you. So I don't know what else I can say about it except that I just really like it. I can't wait to get all the clues so I can finish it up. It is turning out great. You can see how there's short rows. This is an edge. Hang on a second. Getting a little too close to the edge here. Let me dropping stitches. Hang tight. Okay. Everything's rescued. Anyway. Okay, so here is the edge. And you can see that this section here is really short. So they're all short rows in the center. And you're going back and forth. That's why the center of the shawl, which is here, has a wider section. So the rows are getting shorter, but there's a lot to do. And here's the other edge, which again, this is the top of the shawl and it works down, and then this is the section that has short rows. So it's coming along. I didn't work on it a huge amount, so the fact that I was able to get this much done with the short time that I worked on it on Friday and on Saturday, I don't think I'll have any problem getting this clue completed before the next clue comes out. So that's that project. The next one is the Traveling Woman Shawl. And I believe last week when I showed it, I had just finished the first section and I had not started the second section. But I have got 2 repeats in on the second section. I'm going to try and show it to you here. Okay, there you go. So I've got 2 repeats on the second section. I think for the size and the weight that I'm doing, I think I have 1 more repeat of this section, and then I move on to the next chart. Goodness gracious. And so it's coming along. Again, I haven't worked on this too much because, again, my primary focus this week was the knitting for hires, but you can see that I did do some work on it, and it is coming along. I'm really enjoying this project. I can see myself doing this project again in different yarn and a different weight, because if you purchase the pattern, it comes, you can do, like, I think there's 4 different sizes, 2 to 4 different sizes for each weight of yarn, and it has everything from lace to worsted. So you could just keep doing the same shawl and just doing different weights of yarn. This is a fingering, and I would say that this is a medium to heavy fingering. Not quite heavy, but it's not your Regia, you know, your thinner fingering. So so yeah, but I'm enjoying it. I really like the pattern. It's very simple. You can see I did put a lifeline in, but I was going to put a lifeline in after the first repeat before I started the second repeat, but it was so easy and I was going through it so quickly that I didn't bother with the lifeline. I probably will put in fact, I definitely will put a lifeline in before I start the second chart. But it is coming along beautifully. And I mentioned last week that when I was working with this yarn, it was feeling kind of acrylic-y. And after working with it a while, I was liking it a little bit better. But I'm finding that when I pick up the project for the first time, after working with some other yarns, I'm still finding that it's feeling not the greatest. But once I work with it for a while, I'm okay with it. And it could also be the heat. Maybe that my hands are hot and it just feels kind of sticky and tacky on my hands. I'm not sure. I am going to finish the project with this yarn. I'm thinking about giving this shawl to my grandmother, and I think that she would like this color. So I'm going to go ahead and finish it with this yarn, and I think it's going to turn out beautifully because the stitch detail with this yarn is gonna really pop. So that's coming along. I have 2 skeins. These are 50-gram skeins, and this is all I have left of the first one. So I'm really hoping I don't run out of yarn, but you know, I think that I didn't read through the pattern altogether, but I think, like I said, I think I have 1 more repeat of the first chart, and then I think it's just 1 repeat of the second chart. I'm not really sure. Again, I didn't look at it. But I should have enough because I did the size smaller. I have 440 yards, and I did the size that only requires 380 yards. But I didn't do a gauge swatch, and I'm finding that I'm knitting looser than a looser gauge than what the pattern calls for, and I am using the same size needles. So there is a possibility that I will get very close to using up all the yarn. But we're going to just cross our fingers for now and not worry about it. So that project is making progress as well. And I did start my Bacardi. Last week I showed you my swatch. And actually it goes this way. Here's my swatch with my colors that I'm using for my sweater. And I went back and forth about what size needles I was going to use and whatnot. So I did this swatch in a 5. And you can see when I just hold it gently that some parts are a little bit narrower than other parts. So I couldn't decide if I wanted to go down to a 4 or stay with a 5. So I started the sweater with a 5 because I thought, you know what, if I go to a 4, I'm afraid, because this part that's a little bit tighter, which happens to be one of the rows that is 2-color. And I thought, if I go with the smaller needle, I'm afraid the sweater is going to be too small. Although I still hope to lose another 10 to 15 pounds, so it might be all right. But I can't guarantee it. So I started the sweater with a size 5. And I got just to the first decrease. And then I was talking with Terry Knits on Ravelry, going back and forth. I think it was Terry Knits. And she was saying how she would want to change the pattern, and she didn't know if she was going to like all of the carries up the side. And then I got to thinking, if I have all these carries up the side, 6 colors up the side, and then you're going to try and put those into your, loop them in with your, when you're attaching your button band, I'm thinking, that's going to be kind of bulky. And she had mentioned that she had read some of the posts or the project pages, and a lot of people were finding that to be really bulky. So I got about an inch, a little bit more than an inch done on it, and I decided to rip it back. And now I am knitting it in the round, and I'm planning on steeking it. So, and I've gotten back to where I was before, a little bit farther than where I was before. So it's knitting in the round, and I decided to go to a size 4. So I was working on a 5, and now I'm working on a 4. And I really am liking the fabric. I haven't measured the gauge since I started this. I just started this yesterday. I ripped it out yesterday morning. I had knitting club, and I ripped it out yesterday morning and then started it during club. So that's how much I've gotten done on it. I really like this project, and this yarn, although it's very splitty, if I'm paying attention and just making sure that I'm not splitting the plies, it really does make a very nice stitch. Besides the whole knitting in the round and steeking, I meant to show you one of the reasons why I decided to go ahead and do the steeking is because I have one of Lucy Neat Beats videos, and I want to say that it's Gems 2. Either Gems 2 or Gems 3, and I'll post it, a link to the video, not the video, but a link to where you can purchase the video. If you want to do steeking, definitely get this video, this DVD, and watch it. Her videos are more expensive than other knitting DVDs, but boy oh boy, is it worth it. All of them. I just love her technique of teaching and everything. So definitely, if you don't have any Lucy Neat Beat videos, get some. So anyway, so I'm steeking this, and here is my center section. And this is what's nice about the steek, is here's my section where I'm going to be steeking it. You might be able to see I have yarn noodles over here because everything's because I ripped it out, I had all this extra yarn that was pulled out of the ball. But you may be able to see a little bit. I have this thread that's running up the either side of my steek sections. And this is something that Lucy recommends doing so that you know when you're on your public knitting and when you're in your steek knitting. So this is where you can see the center section is where where I change colors and everything, and I have all of my balls are sitting in the center that I'm not working with. And before I lose my stitches again on this one. So, what I'll do is when I'm done, I will do I'll sew, with my sewing machine, I'll sew right up that steek line inside that steek section, and then I'll cut it. And I'll probably cut a little bit on each side. I did add 5 stitches on each side for the steek. You can add, from what I saw on the video, you can add as many stitches as you want to that center section, to the steek section, because if you need a little bit more room to maneuver things, and I thought that I would need some space, just so that 5 stitches I thought would be good to get the yarn kind of, you know, when you add a new skein, that first stitch is always a little bit wonky. So I thought 5 stitches might be plenty to kind of get the stitches a little bit evened out and whatnot. So I did 10 stitches for the steek section, and so far I'm liking it. Also, what I did, this sweater is rather short, and what I did was, the size that I'm knitting, it was only going to be I think 12 inches from the bottom of the sweater to the armhole. And I don't like my sweaters that short. So what I did was I started on the pattern row for 2 sizes larger. That's going to be 14 inches or 13 inches on from the base, from the bottom of the sweater to the armhole. So I started at that pattern row instead of starting at the pattern row that was called for my size. I cast on the same number of stitches for my size, adding the 10 extra stitches for the steek, and then I started at a lower pattern row. Now, I'm not sure how the pattern works. I was talking to Margaret, who was also doing the Bacardi pattern, and she was saying that the idea is to be working up the pattern and to be at that point almost at the top where you're not changing colors too much, where you're going to cast off. So I think that's why you start at an odd place in the pattern, because I think there's 200 and some odd rows, but in the size that I'm knitting, it says to start on row 60. But the larger sizes, you start on a lower row. So I wasn't sure about that. So I started, instead of starting on row 60 of the pattern, I started on row 45. And that's going to add about 1.5 inches to 2 inches to my sweater. So I'm hoping that that will make the sweater long enough to where I like to wear my sweaters. So that's what I did. And I'm still just continuing whenever I get to a... like it says work till row, I think it was row 53 before I do my first decrease. I'm working the rows, the pattern rows, based on the larger sweater, but I'm working with the stitch count of the smaller sweater that will fit me. So there is a couple modifications that I'm making to the sweater, but only the row, the pattern row, and obviously the steeking thing. So we'll see. This will be an experiment in steeking for me, because I've never steeked anything before. Because I've watched that video a few times, I'm feeling pretty comfortable with it. It doesn't look that difficult. So I think it'll be fine. I'll probably knit up a little sample beforehand, before I decide to do the steeking, and just practice, just so that I'm not ruining this. But although, if I knit the whole thing and I steek it and something goes wrong, I still have enough yarn to make another one, so I'm not extremely worried about it. So we'll see how it goes. But that sweater is coming right along. I'm hoping, I would have had, you know, probably, you know, close to 4 or 5 inches done on it had I not knit this, it was yeah, probably about 1.5 inches, almost 2 inches that I had done on it before I ripped it out. And now I've got that back and a little bit more. So hopefully next week I'll have a few more inches and you can see how that pattern is working out for me in these colors. And I don't know, I still have all this stuff that's coming out. I'm going to have to really figure out how I'm going to go about keeping those from being untangled. So that is all my whips, because like I said, there's no reason to show you the other projects that I'm not working on because there's no progress. And I can't show you the secret knitting, so that's it. I've got quite a bit done on it. I've worked through 2 full balls of that Rowan, what was that? Rowan Pure Life Revive, I think it was. So I've worked through 2 full balls, and I started the 3rd one late last night. I was working on it on Friday at work, and I finished up a ball, and then I didn't work on it all day yesterday. I worked on my other projects yesterday during club, and then last night I picked it up and I was tired, but we forgot to turn the AC on up in the bedroom last night, so at 9:30, or what was it? Yeah, about 9:30, I went up to turn on to get ready to go to bed, and it was stifling hot upstairs. It was like 94 degrees, so I had to flip on the AC and then wait for at least an hour to let it cool off up there. So I sat down and worked on the knitting for hire for a little bit, and didn't get that many rows done. I was exhausted at that point, so I didn't get that many rows done, but I did start on the 3rd ball. But this week, in addition to the knitting that I've done, I also was spinning. I don't know if it's Tour de Fleece that's kind of motivated me to do my spinning, but I have been spinning, and not just a little bit, quite a bit. I have worked on, this is my Yarn Hollow BFL and Tussa Silk, and I've got quite a bit done. I have just this tiny bit of, this is the first third of the yarn, of the fiber, because I split this into thirds and then I fractal split it. So I've got this section and then I've got 2 more thirds. But my goal is to just spin this all on the spindle. Now that's not my goal for Tour de Fleece. My goal for this fiber is just to spin it all on my spindle rather than transferring it to my wheel, because that's what I have done in the past. Before I had my wheel, I started a couple of different fibers on my spindle, and then once I got my wheel, I transferred them to the wheel and then was spinning them there. So, but my goal is to spin this entire, I think it's a little bit less than 4 ounces, I want to say, on my spindle. And it'll take quite a while, so you'll be hearing about this yarn for a while. But I did do quite a bit, and I don't know, I didn't weigh it before I started it, but before I started this week, but I have done quite a bit. I've gone through probably 3 times of this amount of fiber. So my goal for Tour de Fleece was to get just the first third done. So if all goes well this week, I should have this part of this done this week. And I think there's still, what, another week of Tour de Fleece? So yeah, I've been spinning a lot. And not only on this fiber, but also on my wheel, which I didn't bring down here because, again, it's upstairs in the air-conditioned living room. I spun on that too, and I have less than an ounce left. I think at the beginning of the week I had close to 2 ounces, and I have less than an ounce, probably around 22 grams at this point. I was trying to spin about 5 grams a day to finish it up before, to finish the singles before today, but I couldn't do it. there were some days that I would spin 3 or 4 ounces or 3 or 4 grams, and some days I would spin more, but I just couldn't get it done. But hopefully, if my spinning time gets, does well this week, I will have that finished by next week. Maybe not plied, but maybe finished the singles anyway. And hopefully this will be done too, because what this is my travel spinning, obviously, and I take it to work with me and spin a little bit every day at work. Usually I try and spin for about 45 minutes if I have the time. So yeah, so that's coming right along. I kind of like having like the spin along or the tour de fleece or whatever, because it kind of motivates me to keep up the progress. Whereas when there's not something going on, like when I was doing the Knit Girls spin along, knit along, I kept my progress up because I was trying to work with the group, and that got done. And now with Tour de Fleece, I have a specific goal. I'm not on any teams or anything, but I had a specific goal for myself that I wanted to do, and I very well could finish that up by the end of this week. Finish my goal and then some. So that's kind of fun. So with that progress, I have done on the stash down. I am currently at 4,467 yards. Yeah, and there's still 3 weeks left. Wait, no, because it goes to the end of August. So we're not even, I don't think we're even halfway through, maybe about halfway, maybe another week or so. And I'm already very close. I think what is it, another 1,000 yards or so that I have to do between now and the end of August. So no issues there. I'm definitely going to get that done without a problem, and then some. And also on the stash down, I'm at 7 skeins. Not too impressive, but when you think about most of what I've been working on has been fingering weight and whatnot. That, like the featherweight cardigan, that was fingering weight yarn. I was over 1,200 yards, but there was only 3 skeins. So stash down, not so impressive with just 7 skeins, but the fact that I've done 4,467 yards on the stash dash, that's kind of fun to know how much I've knit since it started at the end of, what was it? Was it May that it started? Oh golly, I don't remember now. I think it was May. Must have been May. The end of May. Problem is, all the stash dash and stash down supposed to be working through all of the stash. Well, that's all well and good until you go and buy more stash, which is what I did this week. Well, actually, I mentioned it last week, and now this week it all came in. So I have some stash enhancement to show you. And boy, is it great. I mentioned last week that I got the Wollmeise bug, and I purchased a bunch of Wollmeise, and I have started receiving it this week, and I am so excited about it. And I can see that there's going to be lots of, I got a hair in my eye, lots of knitting with Wollmeise in the very near future, considering the fact that now I have, once I receive all of my skeins that I ordered in the last week, I will have 23, I think 23 skeins, 23 or 24 skeins of Wollmeise. I need to start knitting with it if I'm going to have that kind of stash. So, let me just run through. I'll do a little Wollmeise parade. So, we'll start with this one. I'm not going to announce the names because some of these are different, and I don't know them right off the top of my head, and the ones that aren't were different, well, they're in German, and I probably can't pronounce them correctly anyway. But I will tell you the base. So this is Twin, and this is a luscious It's kind of reds and peachy color and cream with greens and a little darker browns. It's awesome. Then we have this one, which is also twin, and it's blue. It's like a turquoise or a tealy blue. Oh, yummy. And I love the semi-solids that have the slightly variegation in color. You know, I think that those are going to really pop when I do a shawl. This one is also a twin, and it's it's a pinky purple, I would say that's what it is. It's a pinky purple, and it is luscious. And then we have this one, which is 100%. And this one is kind of like a brown, a dark brown, and a dark gray. I don't know how well you'll be able to see that on the video because it is such a dark color. But the colors that it goes from a gray, and some sections are kind of a lighter gray to a deep dark brown. It's just gorgeous. This one is a 100%. And this one is pinks and grays with, it looks like the gray must blend a little bit with the pink to make like a purpley tone. So that is just absolutely gorgeous too. This one is 100%, and this one is a deep, deep purple with some blue like undertones. It is just also gorgeous. And these two are my favorite. This one is twin, and it is a bright, bright pink, and I absolutely love it. I think with these two both are weird different. And I think I'm going to want to get both of these in the actual colorway just to see what's different about them. I like these so much that I would definitely knit 2 different projects with them. So that's the bright, bright pink. And then this one, which is also twin. These are both twin. And this one is yellow and blue, or yellow and green and bright pink. And these two would go really nice together in a 2 color. So I just love this Wollmeise. So yeah, I'm having quite a bit of fun with it. And I have, I don't know how many more skeins, a bunch more. I found out on Monday. Last week I mentioned that I had caught the update for the grab bags on Wollmeise site. And I thought that I was cartjacked on one of my grab bags because I was typing in the address, and I didn't think I was quick enough. I got over to PayPal and it said there was some kind of an issue and I couldn't pay for it. So I thought, okay, well, I've been cartjacked. So I hurried back over to the site and grabbed another grab bag, a different one, and purchased that, and then went back again and saw that there was still some lace semi-solid, so I grabbed some of that and I purchased that. So I had these different orders that I had purchased through PayPal. And come to find out, Monday morning I got an email saying with an invoice from Wollmeise saying pay this invoice, and it was for the original grab bag that I thought I was cartjacked. I'm like, wow, I guess I wasn't cartjacked, and for whatever reason I couldn't pay for it. So I said, well, why not? I'm just gonna pay for it and then have all this yarn coming. So I actually have 7 skeins. I think they're all twin of Wollmeise coming, in addition to 1 skein of lace. So that is going to be fun. And I think I still have 3 more skeins that are coming from a stash down. So again, I'm going to have a lot of this yarn and I need to use it. So you can definitely expect to see in the very near future, when some of these other projects are done, when the knitting for hire is done and whatnot, I will definitely be casting on for some projects with this. I don't know if I'll make socks or if I'll make shawls or what, or a combination of both. I don't know, but it's going to be fun to play with. So stash down and stash down dash don't really help much when you add as much yarn to your stash as I have done this week. But the goal is to work it down so that I have some space to purchase some more things at Stitches Midwest, which is at the end of August. Also this week, I did a little bit of a dyeing experiment. I watch Heather over on the Fiber Easter Files, and every once in a while she'll give some tips on how she does her processes for dyeing, and she has some gorgeous stuff. I haven't purchased anything from her yet, but I'm sure that at some point I will when I catch an update from her. And she mentioned last week that she sometimes doesn't want the color to bleed into the other colors. And I have noticed this when I'm working with dyeing and I have my yarn or fiber or whatever laid out on the counter, and you put the dye on, and sometimes you put too much liquid and then it runs along the bottom of the fiber. Well, she was saying that she will put it on like a cooling rack, like a cookie cooling rack, and put it over the sink. So then she can put the dye on and the excess liquid will just go right through into the sink. So this week I decided I was going to try that. And I started with this fiber. And this is, I think it was Polworth. I have to double check, but I think this was Polworth. And in fact, I need to, the other one that I dyed, I need to mark it so that because who knows when I'll get to spinning it. I need to make sure I mark it so I know what it is when I go to spin it. But this, I tried this with this, and I really like how it came out. The only thing is my goal with this particular fiber was to make it more pink than green and yellow. And it obviously is more green and yellow than pink. I don't know if I didn't use enough dye for the pink. I don't know what the deal was, because my pink sections were bigger than my yellow and green sections, but I don't know. I'm not a professional dyer like Heather at the Fibrista Files, so I just kind of wing it, and it is what it is. Anyway, but I used that method, and I really liked it, and I think that I will be using that method again in the future. And also the new thing that I did with this instead of what I did last time was I put it in the oven. That was the first time that I ever set the dye in the oven, because usually I put it in the microwave, or the last time I did fiber, I put it in the water, the boiling water. So this I did a little bit different, and it took longer because you have to leave it in there. I think I left it in there for like 45 minutes or something like that at like, I want to say 250, 225. So it did take a little bit longer, but I don't think it felted like the other one did that I put in the boiling water. However, if I had not left it in the boiling water too long, that one might not have felted either. So it's just, I'm trying different things just to see, because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of experimenting. But this is what I created, and I do like how it came out. It'll be interesting to see how it spins up. And this is, I think it's just under 4 ounces, I want to say. So it was like the leftover after I separated. I had bought like a pound of Polworth, and I separated it out, I think, into 6-ounce bumps, because I like to have a little bit more than 4 ounces, because if I want to do a larger shawl, you need more yarn. So this is, I think, just under 4 ounces. So it came out cool. And then I did the same technique with this yarn. And I really like how this came out as well. This was, again, just experiments in color, just different colors. Now, I had expected this, let me show you here, get it back into something easy to handle. I expected this color here that's kind of a deep turquoisey color. I was expecting this color to be a green. The colorway is spruce on the bottle. Now, a blue spruce, it doesn't say blue spruce. I was expecting it to be a green. And I believe that when I dyed up a sample of it before, it was a deep, deep green. But again, I don't measure out my dyes or I don't have a specific dye to water ratio. So I just kind of go with it, and it is what it is. So it must have been that the dye to water ratio when I did my sample, or maybe it's the amount of fiber that's in there, was greater than what I was now. So this color ended up being more of a blue than a deep green. It's alright because I like it. I like how it turned out. And I used some brown and some like a burgundy red and some orange. And I like how it turned out, and that's all that matters, because I'm just dyeing it for myself. And I don't know what I'll make with it yet. And I did do very short color repeats. So I'm hoping that it doesn't pool when I knit it. And I like it. And I did the same type of thing when I put it on the rack. What I did was I tried to weave it a little bit so that when I went across with the strips, the color was at different sections. Usually what I do is I'll lay it out flat on my counter just with 2 strips, and I'll put a little color here and down. But this way what I did was I laid it a little bit squiggly, kind of something like this, where the strips were together, and then I just laid the color along like that. I squeezed it on. So every time I dye, I just do a little bit different experiment just to see what's going to happen, because it is just a fun thing for me. It's not, I don't ever plan on, opening an Etsy shop or anything like that. It's just a fun experiment for me to try it and just have fun with it, It's a creative outlet. What else? Again, Knitopia is April of next year, April 12th through 22nd, and we do still have a couple spots open. We have 1 spot for the weekends, and we have midweek spots available, as well as day spots. So if you're interested, check out the Knitopia website or contact me. Also, last week's prize drawing, there's still a couple people that haven't responded. That's okay. I'm going to wait for them to respond. The 2 people that have not responded for their prizes is Allison J. and Kitty Cat. So if you didn't watch last week's episode, go check it out or contact me, Your prizes are here waiting for you, and just give me a call, or not a call, but contact me on Ravelry or whatever, and I will get those in the mail to you. Okay, so that is all of my knitting content, I think. But I have been asked to talk about diet and exercise and weight loss. You may have heard me mention before that I have recently lost about 20 pounds. And I struggle with it just like everybody else. But let me give you a little bit of background about me first. Let's see. I don't know what year it was. I don't even know. But anyway, I used to be an aerobic instructor. I was a certified aerobic instructor for 14 years, a little over 14 years. And I love teaching. I taught aerobics and step aerobics and kickboxing and all sorts of classes. I did have my own business where I taught out of the community ed centers, and I really enjoyed it for many, many years. Then I was getting overloaded with life. I was teaching classes 4 nights a week, sometimes doubles, back to back, and I was doing a scrapbooking business where I taught demonstrations on scrapbooking and rubber stamping, and I started to go to school full-time, in addition to working full-time. So things got a little crazy in my life, and I thought, you know what? Something has got to give. I don't have this much time in my life to do all of these things. This was before I was a knitter, so I didn't have any knitting. I wasn't doing knitting. So I thought, okay, something has to give, and I was kind of feeling a little bit burnt out on the aerobics for quite a while. I mean, I enjoyed the classes, I enjoyed the exercise, I enjoyed the people that I was with, but having the commitment of having to be there every single night, 4 nights a week, never having a night off, because when you're the instructor, you can't just say, oh, I don't feel like going to work out tonight, I'm just going to stay home. You can't do that, because you've got people waiting there for you. So I decided that the one thing that I was going to give up was my aerobics classes. And because you can't really, if you're going to school full time, you can't just drop out. I mean, I was trying to get my bachelor's degree at the time, and that was a goal for me. So I stopped teaching aerobics. 6 months later, after that, I was in a car accident, and I really stopped doing exercise altogether. I was laid up for a while. It wasn't a bad accident, but I got whiplash pretty bad, and I was in severe pain for a good month and a half, where the only thing I could do after going to work for a couple of hours was to just lay on the couch and just lay there, because sitting up and using the muscles to hold up my head was just impossible. So for about a month and a half, I didn't do anything. And then for the next 18 months after that, I was in pain, and no physical therapy could help me. And everything that I did just didn't work. And finally, about 18 months after my accident, I finally sought out a chiropractor and started to see a chiropractor. And within 3 months, I was feeling some relief of pain. I still wasn't out of pain. It took me about another year or so to get out of pain completely. Well, still today I have issues, but nothing like it was when I first had the accident. But in the meantime, I wasn't working out because my body didn't feel like it, and I wasn't working out. So in the process of that, I gained about 35 pounds or so. So I finally last year said, this is it. I am going to lose this weight once and for all. Because I never really was a heavy person. You know, even, I guess because I was active so much in my life. I mean, when I was growing up, I was in dance classes, and then I transitioned into being an instructor. So I was always very active. And so that 2.5 years or so after the accident, I was pretty much sedentary. That's the first time in my life that's ever occurred. And I just wasn't working out at all. So I finally, and I was eating just what I was eating before. So last year I finally said, I'm going to get back into an exercise routine and get this weight off. So I joined the Biggest Loser Club and got motivated that way, and also started an exercise program that I've been able to stick to finally. And I enjoy working out. And that's the thing about working out, is no matter what you do, you have to enjoy it, or you're not going to stick to it. If you're going to start an exercise program, my suggestion is to start with something basic, like walking. You don't need any equipment. You just need a pair of good shoes and some comfortable clothing, and you just go out there and walk. You know, in the wintertime it's a little harder because it's colder, but you still can do it without any equipment. So that if you're gonna, and you can, and that can be time for your own reflection and whatnot too. I've enjoyed. I actually started running last year when I started this this weight loss journey, and I thought I would never be a runner. I've tried to run in the past, and I never could keep it up. And I found that I was trying to run too fast. So after I figured out that I was working too hard, and I pulled back a little bit and tried jogging at a slower pace, I was able to stick to it better. And the thing is, again, if you're going to start exercising, start by walking. Build it up. And don't try and jump right into something. Don't think, oh, I'm going to start running, or I'm going to do this, and you haven't been working out. Because all that's going to do is it's going to cause your body to reject the activity. So, and doing something that you enjoy is going to help you continue it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a thread on the group. So you can ask me your specific questions about diet, exercise, and weight loss. And maybe like Tour de Fleece, I will be motivated by helping to motivate you with weight loss. It's not hard to do. You just have to watch your calories. I found that when I was eating, when I actually counted the calories that I was eating, when I was just eating whatever I wanted, I was amazed, and I could see how easy it was for me to gain weight. I was eating upwards of 3,000 to 3,500 calories a day without working out. So to put on the extra 30 pounds in a matter of a couple of years, I can see how that happened. And now that I kind of watch what I eat and pay attention a little bit more, it's easier for me to maintain. Plus, when I'm working out every day, you know, so when you're working out every day and eating, and you happen to have a splurge day or whatever, it's easier to maintain because you are burning those extra calories. Even if really for the last about almost 6 months, I haven't really been following any kind of diet or anything. I have been working out almost every day, except for when I get sick or whatever. I always take time off when my body needs it. But I've just been eating whatever I wanted, and I haven't really been paying attention, and I'm probably up to 3,000 calories a day again, you know, but at least I'm maintaining my weight right now. But if I want to lose that extra 10 or 15 pounds, I need to get back on my strict diet and stick to it, as well as continuing to exercise. You will not lose weight just by diet alone. And you can't drop your calories down so low that your body goes into a hibernation mode where it's not going to continuing to burn the fat. And I found that when I was working out as much as I was, I kept having to up my calories because I was starving. My body was starving, and I would stall my weight loss progress. So what would happen is, if I was working out a lot and I was burning, 600 to 1,000 calories a day with my exercise, I was having to bump my calorie count up to close to 2,000 calories, because otherwise I was not eating enough, and my body was kind of shutting down. So you kind of have to find that happy medium. I definitely would not recommend going anywhere below 1,200 calories. And if you're a heavier person, you might have to start out at 1,700 calories, because the heavier you are, the more calories your body requires at rest just to survive. And you need to be a couple hundred calories above your resting metabolism in order to prevent your body from like going into the hibernation mode, where it stops burning excess calories. It kind of slows down the metabolism so that it doesn't use up all the stores. So again, I am going to set up a group on Ravelry where you can ask your questions. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the podcast talking about weight loss. If there's like a big announcement or something special that happened during the week about my diet or my weight loss, or a revolution that I came to, or something specific, if I broke a plateau, or if I broke you know, a run time, I don't know. If it's something specific like that, I might talk about it. Otherwise, I'm going to keep that discussion over on Ravelry. So if you have specific questions about your specific situation, please ask me about it. I'm very knowledgeable. I taught, like I said, I taught aerobics for 14 years. During that time and since then, I continue to read up on different exercise methods and exercises and whatnot. So I do a lot of research on the topic, and all the knowledge that I gained through the 14 years of being recertified every 2 years. We always had to have classes and, you know, continue our education with exercise. So that's all I have to say right now about weight loss. Again, if you have specific questions, I'm happy to answer them, and I'm sure that other people will get a benefit from my answers to other questions too, because some people might have the same questions. So I'll set the thread up and you can ask me your questions there. And that is about it for today. It's over an hour now, so I want to kind of cut this off a little bit so I can get this uploaded and get on with my day. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you like the new lighting. Let me know if it's better. I'm just hoping that the lights are not reflected in the cabinets. So enjoy your week. I hope you have some time to do some knitting this week, and I will talk to you next week. Bye for now.